I should have trusted my gut the moment Daniel insisted on handling my bank app. Dad, you're too old for all these codes and passwords. Just let me set it up on my phone, he said with that confident smirk of his, like he was doing me a favor. But that night, when I sat alone at the kitchen table, staring at the faded bills spread out under the yellow light, something inside me twisted. I'd worked 45 years pouring concrete, breaking my back to make sure my family never went hungry. And now, my only son was looking at me like I was some helpless fool who couldn't count his own money. The hook was buried deep, and I swallowed it. The kitchen smelled faintly of burnt coffee. I kept reheating the same pot all day, telling myself I was too tired to make a fresh one. The calendar on the wall still showed April, though May was nearly done. Ellen used to flip it for me. Since she passed, the months just blurred together. Daniel leaned against the counter, scrolling on his phone while I fumbled with my checkbook. Dad, nobody uses paper anymore, he said, laughing under his breath. I didn't answer. The sound of pens scratching against paper steadied me. Numbers written down don't lie. People do. Just give me your account login. I'll link it to my phone. Every transaction, every bill, done. Easy as breathing. He said it so casually, like I was asking him to carry groceries instead of hand over my life savings. I looked up. His shirt was crisp, expensive, shoes polished. He'd never worked a 12-hour shift in his life. Never came home with cement dust caked in his hair. I thought of the nights Ellen rubbed my shoulders raw, whispering, "It's for Daniel. One day he'll thank you." I nodded slowly. "All right, son, if it makes things easier." He grinned, already reaching for my checkbook and debit card. The first sign came a week later. I was standing in line at the pharmacy, clutching Ellen's old prescriptions, ones I still refilled out of habit, when the clerk told me my card declined. "Must be a mistake," I muttered, heat rushing to my face as the young couple behind me sighed impatiently. I pulled out cash, hands trembling, and walked back to my truck with the shame burning holes in my chest. At home, Daniel waved it off. "Banks mess up all the time, Dad. Relax." But his eyes didn't meet mine. That night, I opened my old file cabinet, the one Ellen used to tease me about. "You hoard papers like a squirrel hides nuts." I dug out every old statement, every record. My eyesight's not what it used to be, so I held a magnifying glass over the numbers. Patterns emerged. Withdrawals I never made. Transfers labeled external. And yet Daniel kept bringing me little gifts. A new jacket. A fancy watch I didn't need. "Because you deserve nice things," he said. But the price tag still hung inside the collar. One evening, while he thought I was dozing in my recliner, I watched him move through the house. His phone buzzed, and I heard him whisper, "Yeah, don't worry. He has no idea. I've got access to everything." My chest tightened. He wasn't talking to a friend. He was talking about me. I spent that night at the kitchen table, Ellen's photograph propped against the coffee mug. Her smile looked different now. Less like comfort, more like warning. I whispered to her, "You were wrong, Ellen. He doesn't thank me. He's bleeding me dry." By sunrise, I'd filled a notebook with numbers, dates, and suspicions. I may have been old, but I wasn't blind. The next morning, Daniel swaggered in, tossing his keys on the counter. "Dad, you should let me handle your pension checks too. I'll make sure nothing slips through the cracks." I smiled, slow and steady, the kind of smile people mistake for surrender. "Sure, son. Whatever you think is best." Inside, though, something cold clicked into place. He thought he'd tricked an old man. He had no idea I'd just started the game. The thing about playing the fool is, you have to enjoy the silence. Silence makes them careless. And Daniel, he was already careless. That week, I let him handle everything. He strutted around the house like a landlord, dropping phrases like, "Dad, don't worry about bills anymore. I've got you covered." I nodded, chewed my food slowly, let him think I was fading into a shadow of myself. But every night, when the house creaked itself into stillness, I sat at my desk with my lamp burning low. The yellow light showed me what Daniel missed. Details. Old habits die hard. 30 years at the construction company taught me to check numbers twice, measure 3 times, and keep copies of everything. While he thought I was asleep, I pulled statements from my hidden drawer, the ones he hadn't gotten his greasy hands on. That's when I saw it. $1, 200 transferred. $3, 600, gone. Then, a neat $5,000 chunk labeled external withdrawal. Each one hit me like a hammer. My pension, Ellen's life insurance. The money we'd saved for peace, not greed. Friday night. Daniel came home late, smelling like whiskey and cologne that cost more than my truck's insurance. He dropped into the armchair opposite me. You wouldn't believe the deal I closed today. He waved his phone like a trophy. Good for you, son, I said, voice steady. Deals are good. He laughed, mistaking my calm for ignorance. You should trust me more, Dad. I'm taking care of everything. I leaned back, folding my hands across my stomach, and looked at him the way Ellen used to look at me when she knew I was lying about having 1 beer instead of 3. Son, I said quietly, do you remember when you were 10 and you stole $5 from my wallet? His face tightened, just for a second. I smiled soft and slow. I knew then, too. I let you keep it, but I remembered. He forced a laugh. That was kid stuff. Maybe, I said. But the thing about stealing is, it grows. He stood up too fast, muttered something about calling a friend, and left. His tires screamed down the street a minute later. The next day, I called someone I hadn't spoken to in years. Mike Henderson, private investigator, the voice said on the line. Mike, it's Richard. My own voice surprised me with how firm it sounded. I need help. Family matter. Quiet work. Bank accounts. A pause. Then Mike chuckled. Never thought I'd hear that from you. But all right. Send me what you've got. We'll dig. That afternoon, I sat in the kitchen, copying Daniel's withdrawals into a fresh ledger. The paper smelled faintly of dust and ink. I made sure to write every date, every amount, with my neatest hand. Proof isn't proof unless it looks like it belongs in a courtroom. And when Daniel breezed in later with takeout and that fake grin, I thanked him warmly. Because silence was working. 2 nights later, lying in bed, I heard him downstairs. His voice was low, sharp. Through the vent, it carried just enough. He's got no clue. Old man thinks paper still matters. Give me another week. I'll get the rest. My chest went tight, but I didn't move. I let his words sink in, each one cutting deeper than the last. Because that was the moment I knew. Daniel wasn't just stealing. He was planning to drain me dry. I turned over, staring at the ceiling fan cutting shadows into the dark. My hands curled into fists under the blanket. Ellen's photo sat on the nightstand, her smile steady even in the dim light. Don't worry, love, I whispered. He's about to learn that this old man doesn't forget. Or forgive. They say the first cut is the deepest. I disagree. The first cut should be small. Just enough to bleed them, not enough to kill. That's how you test how much pain a man can take before he shows his hand. I started with the mailbox. Daniel thought I never left the house before noon. He didn't know I'd been up at 6 since I was 18. So that Monday, while the street was still wet with sprinkler mist, I slipped outside and checked the mail before he could. Bills. Bank notices. One plain envelope with his name, but my address. I tucked it into my jacket and walked back inside like nothing had changed. At the kitchen table, I slid Ellen's photo closer, used my knife to slit the paper. Inside, credit card statements. 3 accounts I'd never heard of. Balances north of $20,000 each. Payments made with transfers from an account that happened to match mine. I smiled. Small cut. He wouldn't even know he was bleeding yet. That evening, Daniel came in with that fake cheer plastered on his face. He tossed the mail on the counter, flipped through it too quickly, and frowned. No credit card statement today? He asked. I sipped my coffee. Guess not. He shrugged, but his eyes flicked toward the pile again, just once, like a man checking his wound under his shirt. The next test came 2 days later. I told him, very casually, Son, I think I'll go to the bank myself tomorrow. Haven't been in a while. He froze, just for half a second. Then he laughed, too loud. Dad, you don't need to bother. I handle it all online. Why go down there? Habit, I said, keeping my voice flat. Old men like me. We trust faces more than screens. He tried again. Let me go for you. I've got legs. I stood, stretching like it was nothing. Might even enjoy the fresh air. That night, he stayed up late. I could hear him pacing in the guest room, phone buzzing every few minutes. At the bank the next morning, the clerk greeted me by name. She printed out 6 months of statements without blinking. I tucked them into a folder and thanked her like it was routine. Back home, I laid the pages across my desk. My hands shook, not from age, but from rage. $18,450 gone, piece by piece. My pension, Ellen's savings. Every number was a theft with Daniel's fingerprints on it. That evening, I set the trap. "Daniel," I said casually over dinner. "I was thinking of moving some money. Just a few thousand. Maybe invest." He nearly dropped his fork. "Move it? Where?" "Old buddy of mine from the plant. Says he's got a safe return option." His face tightened, then smoothed into a fake grin. "Dad, you don't need to risk anything. Just let me handle your investments." I leaned back, watching him squirm. "Maybe. Or maybe I should just take it in cash. Keep it simple." He laughed, but there was sweat at his temples. "Cash? You'll lose it. Somebody could rob you." "Somebody already has," I muttered, quiet enough he thought I hadn't meant him to hear. He froze, fork halfway to his mouth. Then he forced another laugh. "You always were paranoid." But his eyes told me he'd heard every word. That night, I sat at the desk, writing in my notebook under Ellen's watchful photo. Each page was filling fast. Dates, times, phrases he slipped, reactions to every test. I underlined one sentence twice. "He is scared." Good. Fear has a sound. It's the shallow laugh a man forces when he thinks he's still in control. Daniel had been making that sound all week. By Thursday, I was done with little tests. Small cuts had done their job. He was twitching now, checking his phone too often, watching me out of the corner of his eye like a guard watching a prisoner. He just hadn't figured out who was really behind the bars. So I sharpened the blade. That morning, I went to the bank again. This time, I asked the manager, an old colleague of mine from church, to help me set up a separate account. Quiet. No online access. No paper statements mailed home. Strictly in person. "Keeping something aside?" he asked gently. "Keeping something safe?" I corrected. I moved $12,000 into it. A slice of what Daniel thought he still controlled. When I came home, Daniel was already there. Too early for his usual schedule. He was pacing the living room, Ellen's knitted blanket tossed on the couch like it was in his way. "Dad, where were you?" His tone was too sharp. I placed the grocery bag on the counter, let him stew a moment. "Store." "Why?" "Your phone was off. Battery died." I said it slow, deliberate. His eyes narrowed, but he forced a grin. "No problem. Just wanted to check on you." I almost laughed. Checking on me. The man he was bleeding dry. That night, I laid the trap deeper. "Son," I said over dinner, "do you remember Mrs. Cole from church? The one whose nephew's a lawyer?" Vaguely. She asked about my finances. Said if I ever feel uneasy, I should get a legal review. I paused, watching his fork hover midair. Might not be a bad idea. His smile twitched, broke for half a second. "Dad, that's unnecessary. Lawyers just want to take your money. You trust me, right?" I let the silence hang long enough to sting. Then I smiled, slow and tired. "Of course, son. Who else would I trust?" He laughed too quickly, and that sound, that brittle laugh, told me I'd struck bone. 2 days later, I turned the knife. "Mike Henderson, the PI called. Your boy's been using your name to cover debts," he said flatly. "Cards, loans. Some of them tied directly to your accounts." My throat tightened, but I didn't let my voice shake. "How much?" "North of 50 grand. Maybe more. He's sloppy, though. Leaves trails." I thanked him, slid the phone into my pocket, and stared at Ellen's photo on the mantel. $50,000. Years of sweat and sacrifice. And my son had stolen it like loose change from a dresser. That evening, I baited him again. "Daniel," I said, "a man from the bank called me. Asked if I needed help reviewing my statements." He dropped his glass, whiskey splashing across the table. His hand shook as he grabbed for a towel. "Bank people are idiots," he snapped. "Don't listen to them." I leaned forward, my eyes on his. Funny thing is, he mentioned some loans. Said my name was attached. For the first time, Daniel's mask slipped. His mouth opened, closed. Then he forced a smirk. "You must have misheard. Happens when you get older." I nodded slowly, like I believed him. But inside, Something cold settled into place. He was cornered, and he knew it. That night, while he paced upstairs, I sat at the kitchen table with Ellen's picture and whispered, "He thinks he's almost won. But tomorrow, he's going to find out what losing really feels like." There's a certain calm that comes before a storm. Saturday morning felt like that. The air was too still, the house too quiet. Even the refrigerator's hum seemed to pause, waiting. I'd been waiting too. Daniel came downstairs late, wearing that smug grin, phone already in hand. "Morning, Dad. Thinking we should move some funds around today. Interest rates are dropping." He thought he was still running the game. I folded the newspaper, laid it on the table. "Actually, son, I've already done some moving. Went down to the bank myself." The color drained from his face before he caught it. He forced a laugh. "Dad, you shouldn't go messing with accounts. You'll get confused." Confused. He loved that word. He said it like a weapon, as if repeating it enough would make me doubt myself. I leaned back in my chair. The manager was kind. Helped me set up a secure account. No online access. No third-party logins. I let the words sink. His smile cracked. His thumb froze over his phone screen. That afternoon, I made my first strike. At Henderson's office, the PI handed me a folder thick with papers. "Your son's trail is sloppier than I thought. Credit card applications with your name, but his handwriting. Loans tied to your pension account. And get this, one of them lists his address, not yours." I flipped through page after page. My name forged, my life stolen in black ink. Rage burned through me, but I kept my hands steady. "What's our next move?" I asked. Henderson's eyes sharpened. "Depends. You want legal firepower, or you want him broken first?" I closed the folder. "Both." Sunday dinner was my stage. Daniel sat across from me, scrolling through his phone between bites of roast. I waited until he was comfortable, cocky, chewing with his mouth half open. Then I slid the folder across the table. "What's this?" he asked, laughing nervously. "Read." He opened it, eyes skimming, then widening. His face flushed, then went pale. Page after page, his sins stared back at him. This isn't what it looks like," he stammered. I leaned forward, my voice calm, razor sharp. "It looks like theft. Fraud. $50,000 in my name. And now it looks like evidence." He slammed the folder shut, knuckles white. "Where'd you get this?" "Doesn't matter. What matters is I'm done playing the fool." For the first time, Daniel looked small. His mouth opened, but no words came. He pushed back from the table, chair scraping the floor. "You wouldn't," he began. "Oh, I would," I cut in. My voice was low, steady. "And if you doubt me, try me." The silence that followed was heavy, broken only by the tick of the kitchen clock. He stood there, jaw tight, chest heaving, the mask stripped away. I let the silence stretch until it hurt. Then I said, almost softly, "Sit down, son. You're not finished losing yet." A man without shame is dangerous. Daniel wasn't sorry. He was scared. There's a difference. He avoided me for 2 days. No morning coffee together, no fake smiles. Just slammed doors and whispered phone calls upstairs. The floorboards carried his voice at night. "He's got papers. No, I don't know how much. Stop panicking. I'll fix it." Fix it. That was his plan. To wriggle out, like he always had. But this time, I was done letting him. Tuesday morning, I dressed in my old work boots and the jacket Ellen had patched 3 times. I drove into town, the sun glaring off shop windows, and walked straight into Henderson's office with the folder under my arm. "Time for phase 2, I said. Henderson raised a brow. "You sure?" "Dead sure. We spent 2 hours drafting letters. Not to police yet. No, that would come later. These were quieter, sharper knives. Copies of the forged loan documents. Statements highlighting withdrawals. Notes prepared for Daniel's employer, his bank, even his wife if it came to that. Let him think the walls are closing in, Henderson advised. Fear makes men sloppy." I nodded. Sloppy men bury themselves. That night, I set the bait. I left one of Henderson's letters half sticking out of my desk drawer, where Daniel couldn't help but see it. Then I sat in the living room, TV humming, pretending to doze. Sure enough, around midnight, I heard his footsteps. The desk drawer creaked. A pause, then the faintest sound of paper sliding out. I opened my eyes just enough to catch his reflection in the window. His hands shook as he read. His lips moved. Bank, fraud, evidence. He shoved the paper back and stormed upstairs. 10 minutes later, the guest room light went on. His voice hissed through the vent. He's got a PI. No, I don't know how he found out. I need money fast. If he takes this to court, I'm finished. Finished. The word rang sweet in my ears. By Wednesday, he snapped. Dad, he said at breakfast, slamming his coffee cup down so hard it sloshed. You can't keep threatening me like this. I looked at him, steady as stone. I haven't threatened you. Yet. His jaw clenched. You're overreacting. It's just money. Just money. I leaned forward, voice low. That money was 40 years of my back breaking on concrete. That money was your mother skipping meals so you could have new shoes. You call that just money again and see what happens. He looked away first. Good. That afternoon, Henderson called. Your son's been trying to move assets. Selling things fast. Looks like he's desperate. Let him sell, I said. The more he scrambles, the easier the fall. By Thursday night, Daniel's mask was gone. His eyes were bloodshot, his voice hoarse. You don't understand, he snapped. I owe people. Bad people. If I don't pay them, it's not just me who's in trouble. I let the words hang. Then I said softly, So you sold your father instead? He flinched. I pressed harder. You think those people scare me? I buried friends who died younger than you will if you keep this up. Don't mistake my age for weakness. For the first time, he had no comeback. He just stared, chest heaving, then stormed out the door into the night. I sat there in the quiet, Ellen's photo watching me from the mantel. My hands curled into fists, not from fear, but from certainty. Because now I knew, Daniel wasn't just a thief. He was drowning, and men who are drowning will drag anyone under with them. But I'd built a lifetime on knowing when to hold my breath and when to let someone sink. Some storms you wait for, others you walk into. Friday night, I walked straight into mine. Daniel came home late, shirt wrinkled, eyes darting like a trapped animal. He dropped his keys on the counter and looked at me sitting in the recliner. We need to talk, he said, voice low. Then talk. He ran a hand through his hair, pacing like he was measuring the room for a coffin. Dad, I know about the investigator. The papers. I get it, you're angry. But if you take this further, you don't just ruin me. You ruin yourself. Family reputation. Everything. I studied him, Ellen's photo glowing softly on the mantel behind me. Son, the only thing ruined here is the respect I had for you. His mouth twisted. You think you're some hero, don't you? Old man outsmarting his son. But you don't understand what I'm dealing with. Enlighten me. He hesitated, then spat it out. I owe 70 grand. Gambling. The guys I owe, he broke off, jaw tight. They don't forgive. I let the silence stretch until he shifted on his feet. Then I said quietly, So you tried to buy your life with mine. The mask dropped. For the first time, he stopped pretending. Yes, he shouted. His face was red, eyes wild. I had no choice. You sit here in this house like a king on a throne, piles of money you'll never spend, and I'm out there fighting for my life. You don't even need it. I stood, slowly, deliberately. My voice cut through his rant like a blade. You're right about one thing. I don't need the money. But I'll be damned if I let my own blood steal it. He froze, chest heaving, rage giving way to something else, fear. You wouldn't go to the police, he whispered. I stepped closer until my face was inches from his. Try me. Saturday morning, I met Henderson at a diner off Main Street. Grease smell in the air, coffee bitter enough to peel paint. I slid a flash drive across the table. What's this? He asked. Recordings. Bank calls. Daniel's little confessions he thought I couldn't hear. Henderson smiled grimly. That'll nail him. Not yet, I said. I want him to sweat first. That evening, I laid the final bait. At dinner, I set an envelope beside Daniel's plate. What's this? He asked. Open it. He pulled out a single sheet of paper. His face drained as he read the header. Notice of pending fraud investigation. His hands shook. You filed? I sipped my water. No, not yet. But the papers are ready. One phone call, and your world burns. His chair screeched back. You can't. They'll come after me. Sit down. I barked, the command sharp as steel. He froze. Slowly. Saturday, you've got one weekend, I said. By Monday morning, you'll tell me everything. Every debt, every scheme, every lie. If you don't, I make that call. He stared at me, broken. His lips moved, but no words came. Finally, he whispered, "You don't know what you're starting." I leaned forward, eyes locked on his. "No, son. You don't know who you're stealing from." That night, I didn't sleep. The house creaked. The clock ticked. Daniel's footsteps paced upstairs. But my mind was steady. The storm was here, and by Monday, someone wasn't walking out of it the same. Monday came sharp and cold. The kind of morning where the air cuts your lungs, where the world feels like it's daring you to move. I'd been waiting for this day all weekend. Daniel hadn't slept. His pacing upstairs was proof enough. By dawn, the game was over. Now came the blow. At 8:05 sharp, I was already at the kitchen table, a folder laid out in front of me. Henderson's reports, bank statements, recordings, all neatly stacked like ammunition. Daniel stumbled down the stairs, pale, eyes bloodshot. "You look like hell," I said flatly. He didn't answer, just dropped into the chair opposite me, fingers drumming nervously. "So, what now? You gonna drag your own son into court? Let the world know?" I slid the flash drive across the table. It clicked against the wood, loud in the silence. "That, Daniel, is your life. Every lie, every theft, every debt. Henderson has copies. The bank has copies. Hell, even your employer will have copies if I choose. You don't own the story anymore." "I do." He swallowed hard. "Dad, please. If those guys find out I can't pay." "Those guys?" I cut in, my voice sharp. "You mean the ones you tried to buy off with my pension? Let me make this very clear. I don't care about your debts. I care about mine. And you stole them from me." He broke then. His hands went to his face, shoulders shaking. "I didn't mean." "You meant every bit of it," I snapped. "You looked me in the eye. You called me confused. You called me weak. You tried to make me disappear so you could live one more week like a king. But kings fall, son. And when they do, they fall hard." I stood, slow and steady, walked to the counter where Ellen's picture watched over the room. I set it gently in front of him. She told me once, "Don't give him so much he forgets to be grateful." Looks like she was right. He stared at the photo, silent. By noon, the first calls had gone out. Henderson contacted the bank's fraud division. The investigator confirmed the documents would hold in court. Daniel's employer was alerted. And a detective I knew from church had agreed to pay a visit. At 2:17, a knock rattled the door. Daniel jumped like a guilty man in a cell. Two officers stood there, plain clothes, badges flashing just enough. "Daniel Hayes?" one asked. His voice cracked. "Why ya? You'll need to come with us. Questions about financial irregularities. Best to handle this downtown." I watched him pale, lips trembling, eyes darting to me like I'd throw him a rope. I didn't move. "Dad," he whispered. "Please." I held his gaze. "No more handouts, son. Not for me." They cuffed him gently, more for show than need, and let him out. His head hung low. The silence afterward was thick, almost holy. I sat back at the table, Ellen's photo before me, the house finally breathing easy. For the first time in months, I did too. I whispered to her, "It's done. He'll never forget this day." Then I closed the folder, slid it into the drawer, and let the quiet settle like dust after a demolition. Because revenge isn't always fire and shouting. Sometimes it's paperwork, patience, and letting a man choke on the rope he wove himself. And my last words, the ones I'll carry to the grave, were simple. He thought I was weak. He'll remember me as the man who ended his game.